the channel. So today we are going to be taking a look at the Transformers Legacy Velocitron Speedia 500 Collection Leader Class Victory Universe Galaxy Shuttle. Let's start off by taking a look at the packaging, and then we will get into the review. So of course up front we do have Velocitron Speedia 500 Collection text. We do have Transformers on the side. Of course there's two artwork shots, one of course of Galaxy Shuttle in his robot mode and shuttle mode. I really do like how it's pointed up, looking like it's about to blast off any second now. Of course we do have the Legacy logo at the bottom. If we do flip to the top, there's two other product shots, one of the train and shuttle mode. There's also the Legacy logo, and of course the Velocitron Speedia 500 Collection text. He is from the Victory Universe, or of course more accurately he is from the Transformers Victory show. And if you're not sure what that show is, I haven't seen that much of it, but I do know of course the upcoming new HasLab Victory Saber figure, which should be coming out very soon now, which I did back, so of course look out for that review whenever I get that figure in hand. This character of course is from the same show as Victory Saber, so of course once I get the HasLab figure I will make that comparison with this character right here. So it's super cool how Hasbro is actually branching out to some shows that are not as popular, but I'm actually really glad they're making this character. No, I'm not that familiar with this character, but it's actually super cool to see how they're being a little bit more diverse with some not as popular shows that people know. Of course, if we do flip to the side, there is really just a continuation of the robot. Of course, you can see his other wing and shoulder with that blaster there, which looks pretty cool. If we do flip to the back, we actually have several product shots. Of course, we do have a really cool kind of landing pad base mode there with the shuttle there. Of course, there are some other product shots. One of the shuttle, the robot, and train is 16 steps from the shuttle to the train, and it is 19 steps from the train to the robot. And of course, up the top, we do have an Autobot symbol and Victory Universe Galaxy Shuttle. That is pretty much it for the back. As for the final side, there is another piece of artwork of a Galaxy Shuttle kind of yelling, or a battle cry, with the Legacy logo at the bottom. And that is pretty much it for the packaging, so let's now get into the review. Here we have Galaxy Shuttle in his robot mode. Let's take a look at the details, starting at the very top with that head sculpt. Some really nice silver for the face and blue for the visor. Some really nice dark black for that main helmet section and those little points or ears. Overall looking very cool. If we go to the arms, pretty plain in color, but actually really nice sculpt work. There's actually tons of really nice mechanical and circuitry detailing on the forearms and shoulders. And there's some really nice little highlights of red at the shoulders and points. Overall looking very cool. Quite a bit of angles in this figure, and actually adds a lot. It actually has some really cool poses you can do, quite a bit of really cool points and angles. It actually makes them look very cool. And again, pretty plain, really just done in black, but I really do like those red highlights. If we go down to the chest, of course, some really nice metallic blue. At the stomach, unfortunately, there was a bit of a paint mishap there, but that doesn't bother me that much. Of course, some really nice white at the chest itself with some black on the sides, and I really do like how there's sort of a layered effect with the stomach section. There's little layers and angles on the side and the front, which actually looks very cool. And I actually would have really liked if the metallic blue went on to the side. Maybe they probably didn't put it there because they didn't want it to get scratched off or something due to transformation. That's just my guess, but overall that actually looks super cool. And of course there's some black and white for the waist and crotch. These panels can be moved to, of course, if you ever want to put this in a pose, you can move them, of course, for articulation and stuff like that. As for the top of the leg, some really nice silver there and really nice mechanical detailing. I think that looks really nice. If we go to the front of the leg, I actually really do like how there's half an Autobot symbol on each side. So of course, whenever you get into transformation, they will of course become a whole Autobot symbol, which is super cool. And if you do get close enough, there's actually some really nice nut and bolt design there, which is super cool. And there is posts because of course the original version of this mold was the Siege/Earthrise Astrotrain, and of course that was the beginning of the whole post system where you can attach blasted pieces. And if you do flip to the side of the leg, there's a really nice blue streak design, is of course repeated on the other side, and there's a yellow almost looking like a V. I'm not sure if that was intended to be a V, but it kind of looks like that to me. Maybe that's, of course, to stand for Transformers Victory because he is from that show. Not really sure if that was supposed to be a reference or not, or it could just be a random design that they wanted to add to it. And if you do flip to the back, overall, not too bad on kibble-wise. Of course, there's this whole booster section of the wings, but I actually really do like that. Again, that metallic blue looks super cool there. And honestly, I think they could have used more maybe on the the arms, because I do like all the sculpt work on the arms. There's some really nice mechanical and circuitry detailing, but it's really just black. I think they could have used some of that metallic blue, or maybe that yellow from the legs and put it on the forearms or hands. I think that would look pretty cool. Of course, maybe if they added that, that wouldn't be accurate to the show, but I think it still would have looked pretty cool in my opinion. And as for the wing design, overall pretty plain. I'm just going to move the arm out of the way so you can see better, but there is a classic auto symbol there, mostly done in white, but some really nice mechanical and paneling detailing, and of course a nice black outline. And the same, of course, for the other wing. So let's now get down to, of course, articulation, starting at the very top with that head sculpt. You can look that far up and down, and of course can move side to side. The arm, of course, can move that far back, and of course that far forward, and of course it can move that far out. There is a bicep swivel. There is actually a double jointed elbow bend, which is always really nice. Unfortunately, there is no wrist rotation, but you can angle the hand if you want to, which is really due to transformation. If we do move the arms out of the way, there is a full waist rotation, which the wings can block them a little bit, but it can move all the way around. And of course, if you move these little skirt pieces up, he can kick that far forward. I'm sorry, the joints on this are actually really tight. I do apologize if I have to take a little bit more time with the articulation, because some of his joints are actually super tight and stiff. And it can kick far back, but of course the wings do block it. Of course there is articulation, just this does block it, which is a bit unfortunate. You can slightly mistransform this if you want to have a better pose, but of course as it is not changing anything, that's as far back as it can go, and of course can go that far out. So full splits. There is a swivel at the top of the leg. There is a very stiff knee bend. And of course there is an ankle pivot, which kind of does lock into place, so you do have to disconnect that, but there is an ankle pivot to a so-so degree. And that is pretty much it for articulation. Of course, there is some slight customization. You can angle the wings back if you want to. Also, there's this tip section which you can angle if you want to. But that's pretty much it. I would say the only area that they could slightly improve is, of course, the wrist. And unfortunately, kicking back is quite limited due to the wings in this whole back panel section. So that's my only complaint for articulation. But that is pretty much it for articulation and details. Now I do want to get down to I would say major problem, my main problem with the robot mode. So, as I said before, the original version was Siege/Earthrise Astrotrain, and he was a pretty good figure. Of course, mold-wise, the only difference is the head sculpt. I will bring him out, of course, for a comparison in just a second. But unfortunately with this, they decided to do some really weird painting areas. They really decided some weird choices of weird areas to paint. And one of them being is this hinge that you use to, of course, hinge the wing. So, of course, you do use this hinge for transformation into the train mode, but they painted this whole area right here, and you can actually see, if I get close enough, you can see there is already some paint scratches here. It was painted black, but it was white plastic. So, honestly, I don't know why they didn't just have the hinge either be black plastic or white plastic, and honestly, I wouldn't have cared. It wouldn't have mattered to me because you barely see it at all. But yes, paint scratches, that is not good, especially because this is an exclusive, so I probably will get a second one of these that I just don't transform, because really the only way you can avoid this if you do not transform into the train, because you do not use this hinge for the jet mode. The only time you use this is for the train mode, so you can prevent it, just you will never be able to transform into the train mode. So that is one, I say, glaring issue of the robot. There's some other areas that they painted, and I'm not really sure why, like the weapons, which I'll bring out in just a second to show you. But that's, I would say, the main issue. I'm really not sure why they did that. And if you want to see, it is also on the other side, there's some paint scratches there, and it is also starting to happen on the back here. Those hinges there, it's starting to scratch back there. So not really sure why they didn't just use plastic. Like, they could have used black plastic or white plastic, but they decided to paint white plastic black, so of course it would scratch, obviously, because it's at a major hinge. Not really sure why they did that, and it actually is a huge head scratcher, because if you have Siege Astrotrain at the same hinges of the wings, his are not painted. It is gray plastic. They're not painted whatsoever, and I was wondering, when I grabbed the figure, it was in my display, I hadn't looked at it in a while, and I was like, wait, so is Astrotrain's hinges, are they painted or is it plastic? His are plastic, so I'm not really sure why they changed it for this figure. I really don't understand. But I would say, again, that's my main issue or problem with this figure. Let's now get down to, of course, some comparisons. So here he is with his mold mate, Astrotrain from Siege. And in my personal opinion, yes, this Velocitron Galaxy Shuttle is a better figure. The joints are a lot tighter. It can stand slightly better. I just like the deco a little bit more, but I really do not understand why they did this whole painting thing with the wing. And if you want to, of course, see, this is purple plastic. It is not painted. And you know, of course, because I've had this figure for like 3 years, and if this was painted, it would have been scratched by now, because I've transformed this figure many, many times. This is obviously plastic. So I do not know why they had that painted. That really baffles me. I do not understand. And yes, this will be in every copy type of thing. They painted all the hinges with this. This isn't a one-time or hiccup sort of thing or situation. This is with every single copy, which is really unfortunate, but I probably will get a second one and just not transform it so I can, of course, avoid all those paint scratches. This will just kind of be the one I transform, and it will look bad, but the other one will look really, really good. But of course, comparison wise, the only difference mold wise is of course that head sculpt, and of course the major deco change, and one is an Autobot and one is a Decepticon, but they overall do look very, very cool next to each other. Let me know, of course, between the two, which one you like of the decos, Astrotrain or Galaxy Shuttle. My personal opinion, of course, of the deco, the tolerances, yes, Galaxy Shuttle is better in several ways, but he does have one glaring issue that Astrotrain does not. I actually do want to say now, there is one major issue that they did improve. So for some reason, this actually could be a one copy type thing. So for some reason on my Astrotrain, this section never wants to stay tabbed in. See, as you can see, it just keeps kind of pushing out like that. So that was pretty annoying. That could have just been a one-time thing with my Astrotrain. This one fixes that problem, so it's actually really nice to see that they fixed that issue. Let me know in the comment section down below, did you have that sort of leg tapping problem like mine, or was that just a my copy type thing? But that's pretty much it for this comparison. Of course, I will bring him out for another comparison in his jet mode and train mode, so make sure you stay tuned for that later in the review. And here he is with another Velocitron figure. Here he is with the previous leader from Wave 1. Here he is with Scourge, and they do look very cool next to each other. And I'm actually really interested to see what the third and final leader will be. I'm assuming they're going to do 3 waves. Typically, they do that with the Walmart line. Just like in Netflix, they did 3 leaders, or 3 spoiler packs, if you want to call them. And yeah, there was 3 big box sets or packages, or whatever you want to call them. So I'm assuming there will be 3 leaders, and I'm wondering which mold they will use. Maybe they're going to use the Dragon Megatron, the Transmittal 2 Dragon Megatron, or maybe they'll do like a Blitzwing repaint or something like that. That'd be pretty cool to see. But they overall do look pretty cool next to each other, and I have to say, I didn't get that many of the Netflix line. I got a few, of course. I got the Seekers, and I got Netflix Bumblebee, but I have to say, the Velocitron line is miles better, in my opinion, of the Netflix line. There's newly molded pieces, just the decos are so much more interesting. And of course, yes, they are both exclusive, which is a real pain for a lot of people. But in my opinion, the Velocitron line is so much better, just so much more interesting. There's a lot more going on. That is just my opinion. But they do overall look pretty cool, in my opinion. I will do several more comparisons, of course, in his other 2 modes. And that is pretty much it for the comparisons for now. So let's now get down to his multiple accessories. So if you know Astrotrain, if you have a figure or know him, he does come with his little box. And of course, you can store all the accessories in here, which that's really for other modes, so I'm not going to show that right now. But you can store his accessories on this figure in several different ways. So the first way is you can actually combine all the weapons together. So I'm going to show them individually, then of course I'll show you the combined weapons. So first he does have this red blaster, which this is red plastic, which that's fine, but unfortunately if you combine these 2 weapons, the black paint from this actually rubs off onto this one. If you can see, hopefully you can, it's not really focused right now, hopefully you can see, but there is black marks in there, and that is the paint from this rubbing off on this, which is not good. I do not know why they did this, and this one baffles me even more. So this is red plastic. You can obviously tell if you look in there, there's little areas that are unpainted that is red. Of course, the handle is red. You can obviously tell this was painted. And of course, the little majority of the handle is red. So I'm not really sure why they didn't just get black plastic and paint the handle red, or of course have two separate pieces, have the weapon a separate piece, and of course just glue or attach, however they do it, attach the peg on or the handle on. So that's another thing that I do not understand, why they would paint the majority of the thing when they could just have this plastic, because this is obviously going to scratch up, or of course, as we know, as we can see, rub onto other things. So that doesn't make any sense in my opinion. But those are the two weapons so far. I'm not going to get too negative. I do apologize. I'm just going to tell you what I see, my complaints. Again, I don't want to be too negative. This is a good figure, but there is some issues that I just don't understand. Of course, the next weapon is this actually really cool kind of missile pod thing, which is super cool. I don't have any problems with the next two weapons. This is done, of course, in just the red plastic, but overall designed pretty well. There's these huge missile sections which you can attach to the figure if you want to. Of course, I'm going to show you really just the modes or the combinations that the instruction shows, but you can customize this however you wish. You could attach these. There's MechTech ports everywhere. You can do your own customization if you want to, but I'm just going to show you the ones that are in the instructions. And it also comes to with these two identical blasters, which are also done in red, but overall look pretty cool. And these, I'm pretty sure, are Blaster Piece compatible. So I'm going to show you the first kind of combined mode or version you can do with all the weapons. So, as you know, of course, the black is in there, and it's because you combine these two. So there's this whole circular section, this kind of post that plugs into there, and you just attach that. And yes, this is what causes all of that. And you know, this really kind of highlights the issue with this one, because as I said before, kind of like with the wing, you know, I have Astrotrain and he has the same combining weapon feature, and that doesn't happen. I'm not sure if his weapons are painted or if they're solid plastic, but that doesn't happen because I looked at it right before this review. So I'm not really sure what they were going for or what they were thinking when doing this. But of course, the next step is you get this whole missile pod feature. There is a post and there is a port right there, and you plug that right into place, and this other post kind of goes into that slot right there, just like that. As for the two identical weapons, there is a port here, and you get this peg from this one, and you plug it in on each side. So that is pretty much it for the combined weapon. There we go. I think that overall looks... it's okay. Of course, this is the same thing you can do with Astrotrain, so if you have that figure, you know, you've seen this before. It's an okay combined weapon. It's pretty clunky. It does look a bit weird how most of the weapon, the majority of the weapon, is red, just randomly the tip is black. That looks a bit weird to me, but you can have him hold this in his hands, and actually on my copy, his joints are very, very sturdy, so he can hold the weight, which is pretty nice to see. It is a bit of a shame when Hasbro makes a combined weapon or a big weapon, but the figure, of course, his joints are too loose to even hold it. But in this situation, it actually turned out pretty good. His joints are very secure and tight, so he can hold that weapon, and it's okay. As I said, it's not my favorite, but there is one of the ways you can combine the weapons, and that's pretty much it for that. So I'm actually going to separate these, and now I'm going to show you the second way you can. So let me just separate all these, just take them apart. And you're actually going to need that whole compartment or little extra cart piece that comes with it. So just separate all the weapons, and then you're going to actually need this piece here. And you're going to get this whole assembly right here. You can separate it, and how this was tabbed is there's these little slot sections, and this whole little blue piece just slides into place like that. So you just separate those. You separate these pieces in half, and these will go on the bottom of his feet. So there is a post on this piece, and there is a port in the inside of his foot, and you just attach this into place. And of course, this is really just to add some extra height to the figure, and I'm really glad that this actually is semi-balanced again. This figure is so much easier for some reason, slightly, I would say slightly easier to place and position than Astrotrain. For some reason, I cannot stand Astrotrain on a flat surface. It just does not work for some reason. And now for, of course, this piece, it's actually quite simple. Just open up these compartments, and if you're wondering how this was tabbed into place, is there is a tab here, and there is a slot on the inside, and there is a tab and slot. And what you're going to want to do is get this whole assembly, flip this around, and then you're going to get these tabs on either side, and there is slots in here, and that will just tab right into place. And these pieces will just go back into those tabs I just showed you, like that, and this is going to go on his back. So of course, you're going to line these posts. There is a post there, and there, of course, you're just going to line all these sections, and this becomes the little, like, backpack. You can use your imagination and say it's like a jetpack or something. You can store the weapons back there if you want to, but again, I'm showing you how the instructions show it, so you just attach that back there. He is slightly back heavy right now because I do not have the accessories attached yet, so let's do that right now. So, of course, you just get this little missile pod, and you attach it to the form, so there is a peg, and there is a port, plugging that right into place, and I think that looks pretty cool. Then what you're going to want to do is get the two identical weapons, and you're going to attach these to the MechTech ports on the shoulder. So there is a post there, you're going to plug that right into place. So on my copy, the posts are pretty tight, so I would advise, if your figure is like mine, not to plug it in all the way, because you don't want to have to, unscrew it and unscrew it and unscrew it. So I'm just going to kind of barely attach it in there, because I don't want to cause a stress mark, or of course the peg to snap off. So I'm just going to barely plug it into place, just to save some time. There we go. And then, of course, this weapon is going to go into this hand, like that. And the final weapon goes into this hand. And there we have the sort of weaponized mode of Galaxy Shuttle. And yes, this figure does stand flat most of the time, but of course, the one time I want it to, it doesn't. But here is the weaponized mode, and it actually looks pretty cool. I think it works probably better with this deco than it does Astrotrain, because unfortunately with Astrotrain, he's already a pretty much just gray and purple figure, and most of his weapons, all of his weapons are black, so it's pretty plain. A lot of the colors are repeated, so I'm really glad the accessories are red. Yes, there is one black, so it does add some more color to the figure, and like with Astrotrain, all the weapons just kind of blend in with the figure, which some could consider is a good thing, but in my opinion, I think this is a better look. This is a better deco or version of this weaponized mode than Astrotrain's, but of course we got a lot of weapons on this. He is definitely ready for battle. I don't really like these pointing up. It looks a little bit weird to me, but I do like the missile pod attaching into the form. I actually would have liked if this figure came with two, so you could put one in each form, but I know, of course, they wanted to be able to fit all of these weapons into the little compartment, so I think if they included a second one of those, they might have not been able to fit it into there. Also, of course, this is a repaint, redeco, so really this isn't a problem with this version. It's really a problem with the original Astrotrain, so of course they're just repeating what was already given. But so of course you have this whole backpack compartment, which isn't my favorite because it really doesn't do much. They just kind of attached it there because they didn't have anywhere else to put it. I do like the added little feet pieces, so they of course can make him taller, which is really nice. I also really do like the gunmetal gray kind of silver they got there, which is super cool, but you don't really do much with this. Of course, if you wanted to, you could just completely leave that off, but I am just showing you how the instructions show it. But that is pretty much it for the weaponized mode, so I'm going to quickly do one comparison with Astrotrain again, of course, in his weaponized mode, just so you can see them side by side. So let's quickly do that comparison. Now for our final comparison, of course, here we have Astrotrain and Galaxy Shuttle, both in their weaponized modes, and I think they look pretty cool next to each other. Let me know, of course, between the two, do you like this weaponized mode, and of course, which do you think works better? Which deco works better with this weaponized mode? And as I said before, you can see all of his weapons are just done in this black, and I do like the dark black, kind of matte black color for the weapons. I think just this adds a little bit more. I actually really do like how the red really does match good with the Autobot symbol and the red on the shoulder. I kind of just realized that, but I think both the whole backpack situation, this whole backpack thing, I never really liked. I don't really think it does much. Again, you can just completely scrap that. You can take it off, but of course, this is how the instructions show it. That is pretty much it for the final comparison for the robot mode. So let's now get down to transformation into, of course, the jet mode or the shuttle mode, whatever you want to call it. Starting off transformation, we're actually going to go to the arms. So you're going to flip and the hands just like that. And you're actually going to get the bicep and just rotate it. And then you're going to flip this up, and how this tabs, there is a tab right here and there is a slot in the form just like that. So line that into place. bring this entire assembly up from the body, and of course there's this whole kind of slot section. That's how the arm tabs into place. You're going to bring this up, and you want to make sure this tab is facing up just like that. So do, of course, the same thing on the other side. So just rotate this around and tab the arm right into place. Sometimes I rotate it forward to get some extra room. There we go. Rotate this up like that. There we have both arms like that. So you can then get these sections, flip these up, and then you can get these two pieces right here, and then you can bring this entire chest piece, flip that up as well, and these two panels you can flip down, bring the little fin piece up like that. I do apologize if this flips down. Unfortunately, on my copy, this is a little bit loose. And then what you want to do is go back here, use this entire hinge, and of course flip this up. And how this was tabbed into place, there is a tab here and a slot right there. So just flip that up. Make sure all of this is aligned, because you're going to get this entire booster compartment piece. Flip this out, and there is, of course, tabs here and tabs here, slots, and of course all of that will align together and compress like that. And there we have pretty much the entire back half of the jet fully complete. Hopefully you had a good view of that. Then what you want to do is go to the back, flip up the feet. There we go. There is a post and a port that will just plug right into place like that. Same thing on the other side. Flip up the foot, and then you're going to fold up the leg. And I actually have a bit of advice with this situation, so let me just fold this out. It's a bit secure. There we go, fold that out. So I would actually suggest to tab these sections at a time. In the instructions, it actually shows both tabbing the top pieces and this together at the same time. Actually kind of separate it. Tab the whole cockpit together, first, and then you can tab these. I think it just is a little bit easier. That's just my opinion. So of course now we tabbed that together. We can tab both of these panels here. So it tabs up at the top. There's of course a slot and tab here, and there is one at the bottom. Same of course for the little cockpit compartment. And there we have of course the Galaxy Shuttle in his shuttle mode. Let's take a look at the details. So of course, taking a look at the very front, there's some really nice blue for the entire window or cockpit section. Really nice Autobot symbol there with some nut and bolt design. Of course, there's some ports all over for plastic pieces, which is pretty cool. There's some really nice designs. Again, that could be a V for Victory Saber, who really knows. Some really nice metallic blue, kind of matching that same color as the cockpit. Some more blue here. Same detail, of course, repeated on the other side. The wings look pretty cool, in my opinion. A really nice Autobot symbol on both sides with a really nice black outlining. I actually really do like how this whole black outlining kind of pretty much lasts the entire front. It kind of goes here all the way to the nose cone. It's pretty cool how they made that consistently all the way through. And yes, people have a big problem. They had the same problem with Astro Train. This back part kind of looks a little bit ugly. Also the sizing, kind of the proportions looks a bit weird. The entire front piece is pretty chunky and big, and this entire back part is pretty small. I do agree. Honestly, if they were to do an unproportional jet, I think honestly it would have looked better if the back part was chunky and the thin part was, the front part was thin, because of course this entire section is the engine, so it looks a little bit weird how the engines are so small and the front is so big. Yeah, I do have that. I do agree. It's a little bit weird proportion-wise, size-wise. It looks a little bit weird. But of course, we were expecting this because this is a redeco. This is a repaint. We were kind of expecting this to be the same. It does bother me, but overall, of course, if you just look at the front half and of course take the good for what it is, I think it's a pretty cool looking jet. And I really do like this metallic blue for the engines. That actually looks super, super cool. And on the bottom, overall pretty clean, pretty much done in black. Of course, these are actually the train pieces. They sometimes move, so I do apologize. I have to keep fixing those, but overall pretty clean. Yeah, of course, just the main complaints, the ugly parts back here, but I would say not too bad. That is pretty much it for the details for the shuttle mode. So let's now get down to, of course, all the combinations, of course, with the accessory storage, and this whole compartment piece can actually do quite a bit in the shuttle mode. So let's get down to that. Let's now get into the accessory storage and the landing pad for Galaxy Shuttle in his shuttle mode. But quickly before we do that, I do want to show a quick comparison with Astrotrain when they're both in their shuttle modes. So here, of course, we have Astrotrain and Galaxy Shuttle in their shuttle modes, and I think they do look very cool next to each other mold-wise. They are the exact same thing. The only change is the deco. It's really just up to your personal preference, which you like more. In my opinion, I actually think I like Astrotrain's jet mode more. And let me know in the comment section down below which figure you like more. Also, are you kind of mixed like me? Do you like maybe Galaxy Shuttle's robot mode, but you like Astrotrain's train? For me, I'm actually kind of mixed. I like Galaxy Shuttle's robot mode more, but I like Astrotrain's jet more. With the train, I'm actually kind of mixed, but of course, I will show that after this mode, so make sure you stay tuned for that later in the review. But they overall do look pretty cool next to each other. A side-by-side view, or kind of a view like this, side view. They overall do look pretty cool. Really just a major deco change, and of course they completely scrapped the entire brushwork, which I actually just realized quite recently before filming this review. They had quite a bit of dirt and grime with a Siege Astrotrain, of course. At the beginning of Siege, that was really the beginning of the whole brushwork and battle damage thing. That was really the main theme of Siege, and they slightly continued that into Earthrise, so that was really when it was peaking. And I'm actually kind of glad they took it off of this one. It's much more clean and crisp, and yeah, I'm fine with Astrotrain having a little bit of battle damage, and I actually be pretty interested if in Legacy maybe they could try and make a core class Astrotrain or another new mold of Astrotrain without the battle damage. I think that'd be pretty nice to see. But they overall do look pretty cool, and that is pretty much it for the comparison for now. I will bring Astrotrain out in just a sec, of course, after I show all the accessory storage and everything. I'll show, of course, them next to each other with all their accessories and the landing pads together. So I'm just going to take him off to the side for now, and he will be back in just a second. So let's now get down to accessory storage. So he has quite a few accessories. So what you can do is you can get these two identical ones, and these just go on the wings. So of course there is a peg and a port, and you just plug this right into place just like that. Do the same thing on the other side. Just plug this into place like that. And as for these two big ones, you can just attach these right here like that. So there is a port and there is a peg. Plugging this right into place, just like that. As for the final accessory, which is the little missile pod thing, you're going to store this actually on the side here. So there is a port and there is a peg, and you can just plug this right into place like that. So there are all the accessories stored on the shuttle, and yeah, he is definitely well equipped in my opinion. I think the accessories on the wing work. I think the front three don't work as well. This actually looks pretty cool. I think it just looks better, in my opinion. These look kind of a little bit misplaced. They look a little bit weird. This one's kind of just sticking on the ends, which honestly, if you wanted to, there is a plug, and you can actually just store this on the side like that. I think that actually looks a lot better, but actually, by the instructions, by the box, you're supposed to store it like this, but I think that just looks a little bit more smooth and cohesive. These two just look like a bit of an afterthought. They just kind of stuck those there. It doesn't look that good in my opinion, but the wings, that looks pretty good in my opinion. That's pretty much it for accessory storage, so let's now get down to his two sort of landing pad or launching modes with his trailer or kind of truck piece. So let me just set that off to the side for now. So let's do the kind of stationary sort of landing pad or launch mode, whatever you want to call it. So the first one is you kind of just completely flatten it out. You're just going to open up this piece. You can separate these two panels, which I showed earlier how they're tabbed. There's two slots here and here, and there's two tabs there, and you're just going to completely flatten this out. You're going to leave this piece up, and then you just move these pieces back, and there is the first kind of landing pad mode or launch mode, whatever you want to call it, kind of station mode. Here is the first one. And if you have Astrotrain, it kind of does the same thing where either one side, the front or the back, kind of stick up. And this is a completely flat surface. Under this is wood, and it's a completely flat table. So it does the same, just like Astrotrain, which I was kind of expecting. Personally, doesn't bother me that much, especially after you sit something on it. It's not that bad. It's not that noticeable. So you can just sit this on top. Of course, you can use this with the accessories or without. It really doesn't matter. But there's the first kind of station, sort of docking bay, whatever you want to call it, and I think it looks pretty cool. And one cool, interesting thing is, since of course this was a siege mold / Earthrise mold, they sort of kind of reboxed or packaged, refreshed it. And Earthrise was one of the beginning ones that came out with Earthrise Optimus Prime. So of course they started the whole Battle Masters, like there was Sound Barrier, Double Crosser. You can get those and attach them to this station, which is pretty cool. There's the whole connection port right here, and there is one on the other side as well. So it's pretty cool that they kept that feature. Even so far away from Earthrise. I mean, this is Legacy, so it's pretty cool how they kept that. So there is the first one, which I think looks okay. I actually personally like the whole launch pad or kind of launching thing a little bit better. So let's get into that right now. So I'm just going to take Galaxy Shuttle off to the side again for a quick sec. You're going to just get this section, move this down, and there's 2 tabs and 2 slots, and you're just going to move it like that. And then, of course, you move these sections out, and there we go. There is the launch pad. So I'm going to quickly take a look at the details of this. I didn't show the details, of course, with the other mode because they pretty much stay the same. Also, they're pretty much covered up in the other mode. But overall, I actually think this looks pretty cool. So, and we all know in real life with, NASA shuttles and shuttles like that, they actually have like a whole kind of roller that they kind of roll the engine or the rocket. So it's pretty cool how they actually detailed some treads. You can have this kind of pushing or pulling or moving the shuttle into place, and you can create some pretty cool scenes, which is really nice. There's some really cool treads or wheels on this section, done in some like really nice silver and gunmetal gray, and there's some more on this back section as well, which is really nice. I actually would have liked some rolling wheels, so there is some here, but they're not the greatest rolling wise because of course this entire thing kind of sits up, so it's a bit unfortunate. And of course we got these other out sections really just to help support it, and I really like this whole design in the middle, the yellow and the silver and the black. Really nice sculpt work in my opinion. This is where it attaches to the shuttle. So overall, a pretty cool looking launch pad. So now you can actually attach this to Galaxy Shuttle. So it's pretty much the same connection as before in that weaponized mode. You're going to make sure all 3 pegs are aligned with the engine pieces. You just plug those right into place, and you can actually have it sitting up like that. So hopefully you can see it all in video. Yes, you can. There we go. And there we have the launch pad, or whatever you want, landing mode, whatever you want to call it, which I think this is actually pretty cool. Again, it kind of adds further insult to injury because this whole thing just sticks up because you're putting all the weight on the back. It just pushes up even more, which is pretty unfortunate. I was really hoping they had fixed it when this figure was first revealed or talked about, but I was kind of expecting the worst, and yes, it is the worst. It kind of just sticks up. Which is a bit unfortunate, but staying on the positive, I actually really like this mode. It's pretty cool, and if you want to, you could further expand this. You could actually connect this to Astrotron's landing pad, because again, those little connections, you could get Sound Barrier, Double Crosser, all those, and attach them, which is a pretty cool feature. You could attach this to the modulators, to Airwave, Ironworks, all of them, Greasebit, lots of really cool options. So, of course, I'm just going to quickly go off camera and, of course, get Astrotron, add all of his weapons, of course, attach him to his own landing pad, and do a quick kind of shuttle landing pad comparison, and then we will get into the transformation into, of course, the train mode. Now here we have Astrotron and Galaxy Shuttle, both in their really cool kind of landing pad launch modes, and I think they do look very, very cool next to each other. Let me know again which kind of deco or mode, which one you like more, which suits better to the whole landing pad. I think they both look pretty cool. To be honest, I think I like Astrotron's mode again just a little better because, weirdly enough, the whole kind of color of the landing pad, I wouldn't think suits the deco of Galaxy Shuttle the most. You know, the whole gray and blue. There's really not that much on them. I think it would have looked better if this was done in like red and black. And maybe a little bit of blue, but this is mostly the majority of blue. Yes, there is some highlights on the shell here and there. I think that just would have looked better. This looks pretty good because it's actually very cohesive. All the black and gray really does match Astrotron. Honestly, I would have really liked maybe if there's some purple on here too, but unfortunately there's no purple on this landing pad whatsoever. That is just my opinion, but I actually really like this additional kind of bonus mode. And if you wanted to, you can actually attach both connections, actually do line and work, so you could connect both these together together and create a really cool kind of shuttle bay or shuttle base, which would be pretty cool to see. And I actually would really like if they made another version of this model. Not sure what character would work for this, but I think it would be pretty cool if they did. And hopefully, if they do, if they're listening, they probably are. Hasbro, if you're listening, they go, of course, more towards the Astro Train route. With the wings. They don't paint the hinges. That just doesn't make any sense. I just have to mention it again. If you didn't listen earlier, they painted the hinges that you use, of course, for transformation into the train mode, which we're about to do in just a sec. And, of course, now the hinges on this one are all scratched up. Unfortunately, of course, with Astro Train, they didn't do that, so I'm not really sure why they changed. I really do not understand. They just had to use the same mold, just use the same, plastic, just, of course, a different color. They could use white plastic or black plastic, and it would have been so much better. So I probably will get a second Galaxy Shuttle that I just don't transform because, the only way, as I said before, the only way you can prevent this from happening is just don't transform it into the train mode. Because as you saw in transformation, you do not use that hinge whatsoever from jet to robot or robot to jet. You don't even use it whatsoever. So it wouldn't matter. But train mode is when you fold it up. So every time you do that, you're going to scratch some paint off, which is super unfortunate. So that is pretty much it for this comparison. Let's now get down to transformation into the train mode. Let's now get down to transformation into the train mode. So what you're going to do is get this fin, just fold it in like that, and then you can get this entire piece and fold it up like that. Bring these little black pieces, fold those down onto the side like that. So then what you can do is split this entire assembly and move these off to the side like that. Then do the same thing with this whole cockpit piece, so just split this in half. Then what you're going to do is get the entire piece, fold this around, do the same thing on the other side, just fold this around, flip the entire thing around like that, and these two pieces you're going to push down on this whole slider system. So just push that down until you hear a click. You might not be able to hear it, of course, in the video, but I do. And then just fold this down until you hear a click. And for the last step in this section, flip this whole light piece out like that. Do the same thing on your side, so just get your nail in there, fold that out like that. And then there is two pegs here and two ports there. Plug those into place like that. So just tab everything into place, and of course these two pieces should align if you click those in correctly. And then these two pieces will fold up like that. And there we go. Tab everything into place like that. And then what you can do is get this entire piece, just move this out like that. Do the same thing on the other side. And then what you can do is go here, make sure this piece is out of the way, because these pieces, they will like pop off. Of course, they're not broken, but they will pop off. Then what you're going to do is bend at that section there. Do the same thing on the other side, so make sure that's out of the way. Pop that like that. You can flip it around, and you're going to hinge these up. And this is, of course, where and why they shouldn't have painted those hinges. That's why those are all scratched up. The paint is all off, because you used those hinges. And then there is a tab right here, and there is a slot in the wing, and you're just going to align that up like that. Do the same thing on the other side. Just align those up like that. And then you're going to get this entire wheel piece, and you're going to flip this around like that. And then you can bring this piece down, tab that into place. Do the same thing on the other side, so just, of course, flip this around like that. Tab this in. And, of course, there we have Galaxy Shuttle in his train mode. Let's take a look at the details. Here we have Galaxy Shuttle in his train mode. Let's take a look at the details. Starting at the very front, we have some really nice silver for that front light. I actually really do like this kind of scoop section there. That's probably to resemble, I'm not sure the technical term, but I think it's used to like push rocks and like snow if there's something on the tracks. That's kind of a cool realistic detail that they put there. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I'm right with that. So some really nice nut and bolt detail on the sides, looking very cool. And yes, most of this train is done in black. It is pretty plain, but if you do get closer, there's actually a lot of really nice sculpt work. Of course, there's some really nice wiring going to the entire side and back of the train, looking very cool. And the wheels are done in silver and black, and they actually do roll. They roll quite well. Of course, this is a cloth surface, so it could probably roll a little bit more freely on a flat table, but overall looking very cool. And they actually sculpted in the whole piston section, if you're wondering what this is for. Of course, the train in real life, the whole strut pieces or attachments, they attach to the wheel, and of course it moves and kind of works with the wheel. And I would really like to see maybe someday if they can do another train bot. Not sure which one. Maybe if they do a future Astro Train figure in Legacy, or if they do another Galaxy Shuttle someday. I'd actually really like to see if they could attempt to do that. Have the mechanism actually moving and turning. I don't think they've done that before in, of course, the Hasbro one. Maybe they've done a third-party one that actually does that. I think that'd be pretty cool to see. I'm not sure if you guys are interested in that. Maybe you don't give a crap, but I think that'd be pretty cool to see on a Transformer. And of course, if you flip to the back, really nice metallic blue with the booster sections. Of course, that's a dead giveaway. This is a Transformer, not a real train, but overall pretty cool. Yes, paint apps are definitely needed here. I really would have liked if they highlighted some of the small details like the nut and bolts and the wires. They actually did that with Astro Train. I will bring that out in just a second for train comparison. His are actually kind of highlighted gold, which I think looks so cool. And I wish they had done that maybe in silver or blue with this one, just to add a little bit more interesting details to this. But overall, sculpt work wise and detail wise, they did a good job. Just I think it needed a few paint apps. But that is pretty much it for details. Let's now get down to accessory storage. So there's two ways you can store the accessories. One being, of course, is pretty much on the outside of the train, and the second way is, of course, storing it in that little compartment piece, which you do need this box for both ways. So I'm going to bring this out here and attach it to the train right now. So typically, of course, the standard way, there is the 3 posts and 3 ports. So just attach that into place. And for the first way, you're going to get this whole missile pod section. There is a big white port there, and there is a peg. And attach that into place just like that. You're going to then get the 2 main big weapons, attach these onto the back. Not really sure, of course, it matters which side you put it on, but you just attach those right there like that. As for, of course, the 2 identical blasters, one goes on each side. There is a peg and a port, and you just plug that right into place like that. Same thing on the other side, just flip this around, and you plug that into place. And there is the first way you can store the accessories. And I gotta admit, I think the placement of the accessories is better than the other alt mode. The shuttle mode, don't really like the placement of them, of course. I do like the 2 identical blasters being stored on the wings. I think that looks good. But the other 3 kind of just seemed like they were last-minute thoughts. They're like, oh, where do we put it? We'll just put it in a random place. So I think the placement looks good, but of course, you can already tell the color is definitely very off. The color of the accessories really doesn't match the train itself or the compartment. It looks kind of weird, kind of looks like a hodgepodge. So I would say I would have preferred the train color to match the accessories, or vice versa, the accessories, the color of the accessories to match the train. It just looks a little bit odd, but again, I think the placement really works. I think they actually look good in this placement, and I do have to say the same for the train car, which you'll see a little bit better once I put all these away in there. The color doesn't look good. I wish this was a little bit more cohesive in color scheme like Astro Train. You'll see the train compartment and the train actually looks so cohesive. You could actually maybe even tell if you just put this in front of someone, you could probably think it is a solid piece. It is not removable, but this, of course, you can obviously tell this is a separate piece. But there's the first way. It looks okay. I really would have liked, again, if these accessories were done in like silver or black or something, or of course the same for the train. It could have been different colors like red and blue. That would have been really nice. But let's now get into the second way you can store the accessories. So let's just take all of these off and get into the second way. So you just got to remove these from the back. And quickly, of course, just remove this compartment from the train. I'm going to put this off to the side real quick. It will be back. So you're going to open up this entire assembly or compartment area. And you're going to store the accessories in here, which you can do the same with Astro Train. So you just get this whole missile pod section. There is a port and peg. Plug that into place, and of course the same port and peg system for the other accessories. So the 2 identical weapons go on these little flaps. You're going to make sure the weapon faces in like this, not out, because it will not be able to close. So just store these in like that. As for the final two weapons, these just kind of overlap or go over top of the missile pod, so just store these like that. And there we have that. So then you're just going to do the last step, just fold everything up, just store everything. And I already went over how everything taps into place. There's 2 tabs and 2 slots here, and there's 2 tabs and 2 slots there. Just a little refresher in case you missed that. Tabbing everything together, and there we have the little box of all the accessories. And actually, I do quite like this system. I like the same with Astro. I'm really actually quite happy that they were able to fit all those accessories in just not really that big of a box. I don't like the color. I wish it was a better color to match, of course, the train. I mean, on its own, of course, when it's acting as the landing pad or the launch pad, whatever you want to call it, and the shuttle mode, I think the blue and the red really work. I think it definitely matches the shuttle colors, but unfortunately, of course, the colors of the train really don't match whatsoever. So that, yes, it probably would be hard to, of course, have it work for all 3 modes, all the colors to match the same, because, of course, the deco does kind of change throughout every 3 modes, so I do understand it would be hard to make them match all 3 modes. But here we have, of course, the final way to store the accessories in the train mode, of course, in that compartment. As I said, it's a little bit mixed matched. I kind of wish the colors matched a little bit better, a little bit more cohesive, but honestly, it could have been worse. The back compartment could have been like purple or pink. That looked horrible, but the gunmetal gray and black doesn't look too bad. I think the blue is kind of where it throws me off, but there we have the final sort of mode or product of the train mode. So let's now get down to one quick train comparison. Here he is with the original version, Astro Train. That's just my opinion. I think the shuttle and the train are better with Astro Train, but I like the robot mode more with the Galaxy Shuttle. Again, just my opinion, kind of mixed between the two. Let me know what you like and dislike between these two figures in the comment section down below. And I really do like how they have the gold kind of bronze highlights of the wires, so I really wish they had done that with this. It wouldn't have to be bronze. They could have done silver or white or something. I would have been open to anything. And as you can see, as I mentioned, much more cohesive with this whole back compartment. It's done the same gray and purple as the actual train, and I think it looks really, really good. And that is pretty much it, of course. Comparison-wise, the same mold, really just a repaint of each other in this mode. The only difference, of course, mold-wise, is in the robot mode, the head sculpt, but they do look pretty cool next to each other. I really can't do, I'd say, a side-by-side because they do get cut off. They're very, very long trains, and of course you can remove these 2 compartments if you want more of a simple, shorter look of the train, but they do look pretty cool next to each other. That is pretty much it for all 3 modes. Let's now get down to the final thoughts. Let's now get down to the final thoughts for the Transformers Legacy Velocitron Speedia 500 Collection Victory Universe Galaxy Shuttle. Starting in the train mode, I think overall the details and sculpt work are actually really good. They sculpted in some wires, some oil canisters, really like the cool headlight, and the area, of course, probably where the smoke would come out, and the whole little sift kind of push section is actually super cool. And again, detail-wise, really, really good. I just have to strongly say that because I don't want anyone to think it's a bad figure. It is a good figure. Just I really would have liked maybe some more highlights, more details, more paint apps on this train, because as I made a comparison with Astro Train, he actually has some really cool kind of bronze gold highlights on all the wires and small details, which I think actually add a lot to the figure. I really would have liked if they did that. I really do like the wheels. It's super cool. There's like, I think, 4 wheels on each side, and they roll pretty well, even on the cloth surface, which there is a little bit of grab, so pretty cool with that. There is some little mini ones. They don't typically roll. They're actually a little bit too far off the ground to roll, which I think is perfectly fine. I actually really do like the metallic blue for the engines. It's so cool how there's a train that has like a huge giant rocket booster section on the back. I think that's awesome, and of course you could plug some blaster pieces into there, which is super cool. Not much else to say. I guess the only problem I'd say is, so there's the whole weapons package thing, or box, which is cool. You can attach it to the train to have like a, extend it, have it like a train cart, which is cool. You can store the accessories in there, and of course, store them on the outside of the train. Storing them in there is really nice, but unfortunately, the colors of the train and the compartment extra cart don't really match. It's not that cohesive, and I have to mention that because just making a comparison to Astro Train, they did a much better job. They actually matched the purple and the gray from the train to the cart. They actually lined it up, and it looks so good. So I really wish they had done the same with this, but that is a very minor complaint. And actually, storing the accessories on the outside looks really good. It's probably my favorite version of storage for the accessories of the two alt modes. Yes, there's only two alt modes, but there's like 2 or 3 different ways you can store the accessories in each alt mode, so I actually probably prefer this one the most. The placement is good of the accessories, but the color, again, not the greatest, because there's like, really bright red, and this is a really black, dark color, and it really doesn't match with the compartment either, because the compartment is like silver and blue, but when you add a ton of red, it looks kind of hodgepodgey and weird, so it doesn't look the best color-wise, but placement-wise, the accessories, I think it looks the best there. Transformation from the train to the ship or shuttle is actually pretty easy. You kind of fold it or flip it inside out, sort of. Like, this is pretty much the outside, you kind of just fold it, and then it's sort of the shuttle. It's pretty creative, cool transformation. I actually really do like the shuttle. It's pretty good. I kind of go back and forth with the train. I definitely prefer Astrotrain's train mode. With the shuttle, I'm kind of a mix between the two. I really do like both of them. Of course, there's the really cool feature where you can get the extra compartment. It can turn into a landing pad or a sort of launch pad, which is super cool, and the color of the launch pad definitely suits the shuttle and the robot more than it does the train. So I do understand, of course, that you really can't have the deco of one piece work for all 3 modes. That would be really hard to do. And you can store the accessories again in the compartment, or you can store them on the shuttle, which it looks okay. You can store the 2 identical weapons on the wings. That looks the best. The other 3 weapons, like the missile pod and the 2 big weapons, they kind of seem like an afterthought. They were like, oh, where do we put them? We don't know where to put them, and it kind of seems like it doesn't seem that great. So that's just a minor complaint overall. But the shuttle looks super cool. Love the blue, white, colors, the 2 Autobot symbols on the wings. That always looks super cool, and really, really nice. And again, the metallic blue for the engines on the shuttle looks awesome. You could attach some really cool blaster pieces to them and have them shooting off into space, which is really, really nice. Of course, moving on from transformation into the robot, of course, from the shuttle to the robot, honestly, not that bad. It's, yeah, it's a few steps, of course. If you have never had Astrotrain before, I'd say you probably need the instructions. I'd say 2 to 3 times. If you already have Astrotrain, you know exactly what to do here. I'd say the only thing that can be kind of annoying, I'm just going to mention this from all the transformations, the only thing that is a bit annoying is compressing that whole front section. If you saw the transformation from the shuttle to the train, if you didn't skip that, hopefully you didn't, you use the slider section. It's a little bit annoying compressing it and, of course, moving it out, because sometimes they can get a little bit stuck and they're a little bit tight on my copy, so that I would say is the only annoying thing or kind of irritating thing about transformation, but that's very minor. Robot mode actually looks so cool. Definitely, I had to say I prefer the robot mode with this figure over Astrotrain. Again, shuttle, kind of tied, but train, I have to say, is my favorite with Astrotrain. But the shuttle, the robot mode actually looks super cool. Love the blue, the red, and the white and black colors looking super cool. The accessories actually look pretty cool there. Of course, you can have the super weaponized mode, which it's okay. It's an extra bonus thing. It's okay. In my opinion, I think of all the extra bonus modes, like, the launch pad and the weaponized mode with the robot, I think the launch pad is better, but that is just my opinion. You can, of course, put the whole box thing on his back. Not really sure what it's supposed to be. I guess it's supposed to be like a jetpack or something, or a backpack of like ammunitions. Don't really understand that, but you can do it if you want, but it's okay. Of course, you can combine all the weapons into one giant one, which is a cool feature, but it does come at a cost. As I mentioned before, whenever you attach the 2 big weapons, the black paint wears off onto the red plastic, and it looks really bad. And I have to mention this again, I don't know why they painted a red plastic weapon black. I mean, the majority of the weapon is black except the handle, so they should have just used black plastic and had a separate piece for the handle, which is red plastic, and just like glued it, or I don't know what they do, fused it, whatever, you know what I mean. So don't really understand why they painted the majority of the weapon black when, of course, you're going to attach pieces to it, and of course either the black paint is going to wear off into something else, or the black paint will scratch off of the weapon. So I don't understand that whatsoever. And another complaint I do have to say of the robot mode is, unfortunately, the hinges where the wings are, it's painted, if you didn't know that. And this isn't every copy type of thing. I don't think this is a one copy thing where it's just mine. Pretty sure this is everyone's. and I think I've seen some reviews mention this before, but the hinges where the wings bend or move, they're painted, so they will scratch. It's gonna happen. The only way you can prevent that, as I said before, is if you don't transform into the train mode, because the only mode you actually use the hinge is for the train mode, so if you just never want to transform into the train mode, I guess you're fine, but of course, that seems kind of ridiculous to have to do for a transformer, so that's I would say, the biggest, I'd say, glaring issue of this figure. And it really baffles me why they painted it, because Astrotrain, which I do have, his hinges where the wings bend, I've transformed that figure countless times. They're not painted. I'm pretty sure it's purple and gray plastic, and that's like the smartest idea. Why would you paint it? It's of course going to come off if you transform it multiple times, or, you know, move the wings. So I don't understand why they changed it. I'm not really sure what they were thinking with that. Articulation is pretty standard. There's actually a double elbow joint, which is actually really nice to see. Unfortunately, the articulation with the legs moving back is severely limited due to the wings, which, again, to be expected, because I've asked to train, so that wasn't, I would say, as a surprise, but I wish that was a little bit better. And that's pretty much it for the final thoughts. Of course, there is a lot to talk about this figure. I'm going to cut the final thoughts now because, of course, I could talk a lot more about my thoughts with this figure. There's some really good things, and there's some bad things, like the paint. I really don't know what they were thinking there. I don't want to discourage you from buying this figure. I'd say if you have the money, buy two. You can just have one that's mint condition that you just never transform, and just transform one, and you just have to face facts that it's going to get scratched up. There's going to be areas that look pretty crap, and there's going to be, you know, that's just how it is. I probably will buy a second one, not sure from where, maybe eBay or Walmart has repulsed, something like that, and I just won't transform that one, and this one I'll transform, and it'll scratch up, it'll get scratched up, but that's just how it is. Hopefully, if they make another version of this mold, it won't be like that. I really don't know what they were thinking. But yeah, it's a good figure. There's some problems, some big problems, but it's a good figure. I highly recommend to get it. And who knows, if you have this figure, actually, yeah, if you have this figure, let me know in the comment section down below. Are your wings the same? Are they painted in those hinges, and do they scratch up? This could be a one copy type thing, like they didn't mean to paint those, but they did for some reason. I don't think so, because of course it's manufactured at a big scale. It's in a factory, of course, so they're going to replicate the same process over and over. So I'm assuming this is a widespread full thing, like everyone will have it this way, but who knows? Maybe I'm just the unlucky one who had it. I really don't know. Hopefully you enjoyed this review, of course. Hopefully we'll cross our fingers that we can get Victory Saber soon. Seems like it's been forever. It's been well over a year. I mean, it's been a while now. I mean, the backing ended last year in like October, I think. So it's been a while. Hopefully it'll come soon, and of course, when I get it, I will do a review and compare them to this figure, because they are both from the same show, sort of same universe, which is pretty cool to see. So, let me know your thoughts on this figure in the comment section down below. Which figure do you prefer, or are you kind of mixed like me? Do you like the robot mode of Galaxy Shuttle, but you like the train with Astrotrain, and you're kind of tied with the shuttles? That's really how I am. I'm kind of tied with the shuttles. They're both pretty good. Overall, a very good figure. I highly recommend it. There is some problems, but you gotta stay with the positive. Hopefully you enjoy, and I'll see you next time.